In the US, just about anyone can tell you which sport is most popular in Mexico. Soccer is probably the first thing people think of. There may be some surprise when they find out that boxing has given the nation its most international successes. The number of world champions produced by Mexico is higher than any other country, depending on who counts. It is because a large number of Mexican-American fighters either claim Mexican ethnic background or have applied for dual citizenship. Approximately 200 Mexican-born athletes have won professional titles, while more than 30 can be attributed to both Mexico and the US, Oscar de la Hoya, for example. There is a proud and long history of the sport in Mexico, including the area along the US-Mexico border. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel so that we can continue to create more content about the beauty of Latin America. Back in the 1800s, boxing was seen as a sport for amateurs and prize fighters. During that period, the sport was described as barbaric, a game for children, and only played by thieves, drunks, and ne'er-do-wells. At the time, amateur boxing was popular in Gulf ports, especially Tampico, where sailors fought for drinking money with napkins instead of gloves. It wasn't until 1921 that the first Mexican Boxing Commission was established, introducing some regulations and making boxing more respectable in society's eyes. There was still a significant gap between how people felt about novices or prize fighters and talented boxers. Miguel Angel Febles was the first professional Mexican boxer, training in the gym of a Chilean fighter known as the father of Chilean boxing, John Budenick. Upon his return to Mexico in 1915, Febles organized pro fights throughout the country. Each night he fought in a different location and became a world champion in 4 weight classes. Mexico's first Olympic boxing championship was won by Francisco Cabanas Pardo in Los Angeles during the Summer Olympics of 1932. It was during the 1930s that boxing enjoyed its first golden age in Mexico, particularly in Mexico City. Following the Mexican Revolution, waves of immigrants fled Mexico for the United States and brought boxing with them. Boxing's first global governing body, the World Boxing Council, was established in 1960 by representatives from Latin America, Europe, Asia, and the United States. As a result of Mexico's power at the time, one of the organization's stated goals was to protect Mexican boxers from sponsors and managers in the United States. Boxing in Mexico experienced a second golden age in the 1980s, largely due to the efforts of boxing superstar Julio Cesar Chavez. As Mexico's greatest boxing champion and one of the strongest fighters in history, Chavez fought his way to 107 victories over the past 3 decades, including an 87-fight winning streak, before receiving his first draw. He is often credited with popularizing the Mexican style of boxing, which emphasizes body punches and an emphasis on hips and heads. In the words of Hall of Fame sportscaster Lupe Contreras, this fighting style is más macho. It has been difficult to think of a noteworthy Mexican name since then. It was in 1990 that Ricardo Finito Lopez won his first world championship, and he held it for a record 21 times without losing it. In boxing, he's one of a few undefeated champions. In 1980 and 1982, Salvador Sanchez held the WBC and lineal lightweight titles. Many believe he would have been the greatest featherweight boxer ever if he hadn't died so suddenly. A 4-weight world champion in the 1990s and 2000s, Juan Manuel Marquez became a prominent superstar after his 4-fight series with Manny Pacquiao ended in an explosive knockout. Boxing is losing popularity among middle-class white Americans, but Mexicans are still captivated by ringside action. One of Mexico's current boxing phenoms, Saul Canelo Alvarez, has won multiple world championships and has been ranked by BoxRec, the Transnational Boxing Rankings Board, TBRB, ESPN, the World Boxing Organization, and the World Boxing Council as the world's greatest active boxer, pound for pound. With the changing demographics of the boxing world, Latinos are now the majority in the United States, a privilege they do not have in any other industry. This is particularly remarkable due to the fact that boxing matches are top-grossing PPV events, and Mexicans or Latinos usually appear in the main event. With an understanding of the history of Mexican and Mexican-American boxing, here are 4 reasons why Mexicans excel at the sport. 1. Machismo. In its simplest form, machismo is a combination of boldness and aggressive pride. There is no doubt that Mexico has produced more heroic men than any other country. During World War II, no other group received more medals than Mexican Americans in the United States Army. Mexicans are known for their bravery and daring, which allows them to fight more aggressively and faster than their adversaries. 2. A way to escape poverty. The fact that 55.7 million individuals live in poverty in a nation that has over 120 million inhabitants is an important indicator of the country's economic and financial health. In order to escape poverty, Mexicans pursue boxing because it is a lucrative sport. As an example, Julio Cesar Chavez lived with his brothers under an abandoned railroad with one of the worst childhoods anyone can imagine. Having grown up in poverty, he decided to transform his family's life through boxing. 3. Strong jaws and chins. A Mexican fighter's chin is one of the toughest to break in combat sports in general, and this makes them so resilient. Because of their endurance, fighters such as Canelo Alvarez and Tony Ferguson have been able to recover from losing a few fights. This explains why Mexicans are such good boxers, though you might still be curious about it. Why do Mexicans have such strong chins? When you've been smacked in the face throughout your life, you certainly become more resilient. As a result of their harsh upbringings, combined with their innate bravery, Mexicans have built solid chins throughout their lives. 4. A way of life. Consider that, from the moment you become a toddler, all you will hear and see is boxing, and that you will probably become very proficient at it. The sport of boxing is more than just a sport in Mexico. It is a culture, a legacy if you will, in which children are born into. After watching his older brother compete, Canelo Alvarez began boxing at the age of 13. It goes without saying that no other nation in the world values boxing as much as Mexicans do, and as a result, no other nation is as good as Mexico. To learn more about Mexico, click the video on the left and subscribe to our channel to help us become a leading channel on everything about Latin America.